Alors, en quelques mots, donc, je vais introduire l'événement de ce soir. On va monter voir ensuite l'œuvre de Conrad, qu'il a co-créée avec Vladimir Kramnik. Puis nous redescendrons ici pour assister à une présentation plus complète. Je voulais dire merci à tous les gens qui ont organisé, les équipes du musée qui ont travaillé à cet événement, à Céline qui nous a beaucoup soutenus, et puis à Conrad qui a pu venir. Vladimir Kramnik, malheureusement, n'est pas avec nous ce soir, contrairement à ce qui était prévu. Il n'a pas pu prendre son vol. Il sera présent néanmoins à travers une vidéo. Et on le verra, il va plutôt une vidéo directe en streaming. Il pourra nous parler de l'œuvre et il pourra aussi répondre à vos questions. Pourquoi est-ce qu'on a voulu organiser ça ce soir? Il y a une logique à le faire au musée, puisque Céline est éditrice. Elle crée des objets artistiques, des livres, qui sont des livres collectionnés par les bibliothèques des grands musées, comme celle du Centre Pompidou, ou qui pourraient être aussi collectionnés par notre musée. Et elle nous avait gentiment prêté une œuvre réalisée avec Ali Kazma, un vidéaste qu'on avait présenté l'hiver dernier. On a fait connaissance et nous a parlé de ce nouveau projet dont vous avez la primeur. Vous serez les premiers à voir ce nouveau livre-objet qui rejoint une des lignes du musée, de nos collections. Vous savez peut-être que notre musée, ou peut-être pas, a une collection importante de 10 000 œuvres d'art. Et une des thématiques sont les œuvres mécaniques. Et l'œuvre de Conrad, qui est sociétaire de l'Académie royale d'art à Londres, qui est un artiste important, collectionné par de nombreux musées, est tout à fait dans cette ligne. Voilà, donc je ne vais pas aller plus loin, je vais simplement remercier tout le monde, vous laisser voir l'œuvre en action au deuxième étage, et puis après on redescendra, et là Céline, Vladimir et Conrad pourront expliquer pourquoi ils ont souhaité travailler ensemble et quel est le beau projet que vous aurez découvert. Je vous remercie.
Conrad, je pense qu'on aurait pu passer la nuit à essayer toutes les combinaisons de ces disques. Je voulais juste signaler la présence de Vladimir Kramnik qui après va parler aussi du livre et de sa contribution au projet. Malheureusement, il n'a pas pu être parmi nous ce soir, mais il est là virtuellement. Et il pourra aussi répondre à vos questions. Voilà, alors je vais commencer un peu la présentation pour présenter plus en détail Conrad, Vladimir, et en fait parler de cette association, en fait, de pourquoi ils ont été réunis dans ce projet.
Yes, I can start. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
2 minutes. I just have first to do a brief introduction, Vladimir, sorry, of the book. Okay. So here we're meeting. Je parle en fait en français, non? Nous sommes réunis en fait ce soir. Je pense que c'est plus facile pour l'audience. Nous sommes en fait réunis ce soir pour parler du thème de l'expansion et de cet élan vital de l'homme de repousser ses limites. Ce livre a été conçu comme un espace expérimental qui réunit donc à la fois une œuvre, celle de Conrad Shawcross, un texte qui est une interview de Vladimir, et ce qui concentre en fait toutes ces interrogations de l'homme qui, depuis toujours, a été fasciné par l'infini, bien qu'il se sente tout petit, mais en même temps a été capable de conceptualiser l'infini. Et donc, ce livre est aussi une façon d'étudier cette propension à essayer de conceptualiser l'infini et à nous projeter vers un univers un peu plus grand. Alors, pourquoi un livre d'artiste ? En fait, je suis éditrice, j'édite des livres d'artistes depuis 30 ans qui rassemblent des artistes, des écrivains, des scientifiques, des graphistes et des designers et qui sont en fait conçus comme des mini-univers expérimentaux où différents participants contribuent, que ce soit à travers de textes, à travers une œuvre, et de manière très libre et parallèle. Donc, comme vous le savez, le livre d'artiste a été très important dans l'histoire de l'art. Il a commencé très tôt, avec des gravures sur les pierres. Après, il est passé avec William Blake à l'illustration. Il y a eu les constructivistes, il y a eu les livres de peintres. Il y a eu énormément de différentes tendances, le Fluxus, qui ont à chaque fois fait évoluer le livre et refléter leur époque. Ça, c'est un de mes livres donc, avec Tony Oursler, un vidéaste américain, et les Radi designers qui ont dessiné le boîtier pour en fait vous montrer qu'aujourd'hui, le livre a évolué. Il n'est plus un quadrilatère plat et en 2 dimensions, il peut être aussi en 3 dimensions. Et je conçois mes livres comme vraiment des univers qui sont comme des seuils un peu d'émerveillement dans lesquels on pénètre d'abord avec les sens qui sont sculpturaux et qui ensuite concentrent à la fois la réflexion et le visuel. Donc ce sont des collaborations très dynamiques entre des images et un texte, et avec des matériaux différents. Ça, c'est un autre livre avec Tony Oursler. Et donc à chaque fois, j'invite ces artistes, ces écrivains à réfléchir librement sur un thème. Donc là, c'était le thème de l'écologie. Et ça, c'était un livre sur Beyrouth et la guerre civile avec Wajdi Mouawad et Gabriel Basilico et Robert Sadler qui a dessiné le boîtier. Et donc le boîtier est conçu non pas comme un bel objet, mais comme vraiment la peau du livre. Il est en complète symbiose avec le contenu du livre. Et les livres prennent des formats complètement différents à chaque fois. Donc pour moi, un livre d'artiste n'est pas un livre sur l'art avec un critique qui parle d'un artiste, c'est vraiment une œuvre d'art collective qui se matérialise sous la forme d'un livre et qui est un mini-univers. Ça, je vous montre, c'est un livre avec Prune Nourri. C'est assez intéressant parce qu'en fait, elle a créé cette sculpture pour notre livre qui est là et maintenant, elle l'a créée au Château Lacoste de manière monumentale. C'est une sculpture dans laquelle on peut rentrer. Donc en fait, ces livres sont souvent aussi le point de départ de réflexions, de collaborations qui se poursuivent dans d'autres domaines. Ça, c'est un livre avec Ernesto Neto, qui est un sculpteur, et donc là, il a dessiné le boîtier, en l'occurrence. Voilà, donc à la fois la réflexion et la sensualité et l'intimité du format du livre, qui raconte une histoire. Ça, c'est un livre que j'ai réalisé pour le MoMA, avec Annette Messager et Jean-Philippe Toussaint, qui est une boîte de correspondance un peu mystérieuse. Voilà, et donc ce qui nous amène à notre livre, qui est un peu un ovni, mais je pensais que c'était intéressant d'un peu resituer la genèse de tout ça pour arriver à cet objet. Donc ce livre rassemble l'œuvre de Conrad, donc, que vous avez pu tout à l'heure voir, un texte de Vladimir Kramnik. Le graphisme a été réalisé par Aurel Sac et donc publié par les éditions Take 5. Donc pourquoi a-t-on eu l'idée de cette collaboration ? En fait, à la fois Conrad et Vladimir créent des mondes au sein de notre monde, c'est-à-dire qu'ils expandent, ils contribuent vraiment à repousser les limites de notre intellect, de notre spiritualité, de nos interrogations. Et en fait, à la fois le joueur d'échecs comme le scientifique artiste, qui est Conrad Shawcross, crée des dispositifs qui créent des arborescences infinies et qui sont liées justement à ce désir d'expansion. Alors Vladimir Kramnik, je le présente un peu ici. Donc, il est né en 1975 à Tuapse, en Union soviétique, en Russie. Il était très précoce puisqu'il était étudiant de l'école de Botvinnik et il a gagné en 91 le championnat pour les jeunes. Il est devenu grand maître à l'âge de 16 ans et champion du monde à l'âge de 20 ans. Il a battu Kasparov en 2000. Il est resté champion du monde jusqu'en 2006 et il est un des plus grands joueurs d'échecs du monde depuis 20 ans. Voilà. Et il a pris sa retraite en 2019, mais il continue à être très très actif. Il a récemment lancé une application qui va sûrement vous intéresser parce que je crois qu'on a des joueurs d'échecs dans la salle qu'on peut télécharger sur le téléphone et qui donne beaucoup de précieux conseils pour améliorer son jeu. Conrad est un artiste anglais qui est né et vit au Royaume-Uni. Il est né en 1977. Il est passionné par la science, comme vous avez pu le constater, et son œuvre est vraiment à la frontière de la physique et de la métaphysique. Il crée des dispositifs souvent très épiques, parce que là, le livre est petit, mais il crée souvent des machines. Moi, je l'appelle un peu le Gustave Eiffel de notre époque, parce qu'il crée des machines gigantesques, qui sont des mécanismes, qui sont des sculptures animées, et qui nous permettent de comprendre, de conceptualiser des théories de physique quantique, de beaucoup de choses. Donc, dans ce livre en particulier, on s'intéresse à l'infini, puisque l'infini est quand même un sujet d'interrogation de l'homme depuis que l'homme a pu lever les yeux vers le ciel ou vers l'espace. Et la nature nous rappelle aussi que les structures géométriques sont partout. Quand vous voyez la structure fractale des feuilles, ou alors les vortex, ou alors les séries infinies, on voit que toute la nature est imprégnée de ce mathématique. Et effectivement, si on veut comprendre la réalité, une des façons les plus appropriées est d'essayer de l'abstraire, cette réalité, en termes scientifiques, et d'adopter une perspective plus cartésienne. Donc, dans le livre Library of Absence, Conrad a questionné la géométrie, le rythme et les configurations différentes. Ce que fait aussi un joueur d'échecs avec des arborescences, en fait, quand il anticipe. Donc je me souviens, la première fois que j'ai rencontré Vladimir, je lui ai demandé combien de coups en avance vous anticipez votre stratégie. Et il m'a dit non, mais moi, ça ne marche plus du tout comme ça. L'arborescence est tellement rapide et infinie qu'en fait, ça devient autre chose, ça devient une abstraction globale. Et voilà, donc en fait, il s'avère que jouer aux échecs à un certain niveau, c'est ouvrir une boîte de Pandore qui est assez impressionnante, puisqu'apparemment, il y a autant de combinaisons aux échecs qu'il y aurait, entre guillemets, d'atomes dans l'univers. Donc, comme disait Conrad, c'est vraiment la prolifération de possibilités. Et donc, pour ce livre, on s'est inspiré donc des sculptures de Conrad qui s'appellent Patterns of Absence, dont il a très bien défini qu'elles étaient animées par le vide et la lumière. Donc elles sont faites de 2 disques, comme vous avez pu le constater, qui tournent en sens inverse. Et la lumière pénètre à travers ces disques et projette sur les murs des configurations. Donc on a choisi d'avoir ces 64 disques en hommage au jeu d'échecs, qui compte 64 cases. Et comme on peut associer ces disques de manière très différente, et en même temps que ça tourne, le nombre de combinaisons est peut-être pas infini, mais en tout cas, si on prend un instant t minuscule, il y aura énormément de possibilités. Et voilà, donc l'œuvre de Conrad est scientifique avant tout, puisqu'il s'inspire de motifs, les motifs apériodiques, il fait énormément de recherches par rapport à tout ça, mais en même temps, elle arrive à se mettre au niveau de personnes qui ne sont pas scientifiques et de créer l'émerveillement. Donc, pour moi, il y avait vraiment une connexion très forte entre leurs 2 travaux qui sont aussi liés sur le vide et le plein, puisque un jeu d'échecs part avec tous ses pions et il arrive à 100 pions, enfin avec un seul pion. et vainqueur. Et en même temps, il y a cette dynamique, ce rythme, ce jeu de puissance, un peu, de choses qui se déplacent. Voilà. Et alors ça, c'est justement tous les disques que vous avez pu voir tout à l'heure et les dessins que Conrad a créés avec leurs couleurs de toutes ces patterns qui après créent ces dessins sur le mur. Donc comme vous l'avez vu, c'est le décalage entre ces deux disques qui tournent en sens inverse. La lumière, ça s'appelle Library of Absence, parce que la lumière pénètre dans ces disques et c'est à travers l'absence que se crée le sens. Voilà, alors pour créer ce livre, inutile de vous dire qu'il a nécessité énormément de prototypes. Ça, c'était au départ la valise qui avait été prévue, beaucoup de dessins, beaucoup d'expérimentation. Il a fallu, donc ça c'est de l'aluminium ionisé, donc il a vraiment fallu que tous les détails soient impeccables. Conrad travaille aussi avec une personne qui est un ingénieur, qui a tout dessiné sur son ordinateur. Ça demande des heures et des heures de travail, comme chaque disque demande presque, je crois, une nuit de travail pour que la découpe au laser. Voilà, et donc dans l'autre partie du livre, il y a le texte, le livre en tant que tel, plus traditionnel, avec le texte, qui est lui une exploration des échecs, et donc qui comprend une interview de Vladimir Kramnik, qui nous parle donc de stratégie, de self-control, de balance, de timing, enfin de toutes ces choses aux échecs qui permettent de garder son sang-froid et de réagir au bon moment pour avoir un impact le meilleur possible. Et bon, il vous en parlera plus en détail tout à l'heure. Et après, il y a un autre texte dans le livre qui est plus un récapitulatif de l'influence des échecs sur l'art, la littérature, la linguistique, la philosophie, puisque finalement, l'aspect symbolique des échecs et le fait que les échecs existent depuis le VIe siècle font qu'en fait, il a complètement imprégné la culture, la littérature avec Nabokov, ou avec Stefan Zweig, l'art avec Duchamp, qui a même failli renoncer à sa carrière d'artiste avec Vasarely, donc les échecs, la linguistique avec De Saussure. Enfin, c'est vraiment, quand on se plonge dans ce sujet, c'est pas seulement un mode d'emploi de castling ou de réussite d'apprendre à jouer, c'est vraiment toute une répercussion sur notre monde et des interrogations aussi métaphysiques qui se posent. Voilà, le graphisme du texte a été réalisé par Aurel Sack, qui est un graphiste suisse qui enseigne à l'ECAL et qui dessine aussi des typographies. Il a eu 3 fois le Swiss Design Award en 2006, 2010 et 2014. Et donc il a créé un graphisme très dynamique basé sur les formes, le carré. Et chaque forme, évidemment, a un symbolisme très fort, puisque le carré, c'est ce qui est stable, ce qui est ancré, c'est les 4 points cardinaux, et le rond est dans la symbolique toujours ce qui n'a pas de fin, ce qui est infini, puisqu'il si on suit un cercle, ça n'a pas de fin. Voilà, et donc il a créé un rythme très vivant à ce livre. Donc je vous montre quelques pages du livre ici. Voilà, et le colophon. Et enfin, il y a une photo que Vladimir a choisie, et d'ailleurs l'artiste nous a fait l'honneur de nous rejoindre ce soir, qui s'appelle La bataille de l'ombre, qui est en fait une image de l'échiquier. Alors, je ne sais pas si c'est Vladimir qui est emmitouflé dans son manteau derrière, mais en tout cas, c'est l'échiquier qui était apparemment ce fameux match entre Garry Kasparov et Vladimir Kramnik quand Vladimir a battu Kasparov. Voilà. Et enfin, une citation qui me paraît très appropriée, qui est plus métaphysique, mais qui, je pense, imprègne beaucoup ce livre, qui en fait crée le lien entre l'infini et l'homme, et le regard ascendant et le regard descendant qui est finalement incessant pour notre condition. Et très recommandable aussi, puisque c'est comme ça que l'homme peut évoluer et s'améliorer. Alors peut-être je passe maintenant la parole à Vladimir. Alors Vladimir, I don't know if you want to say a few words about the book and the process, or about how your work you think relates to Conrad's work in terms of this infinity of pattern, this infinity of combination, and your own perception of the game and how you visualize when you play the combinations. I don't know. I let you because you have a lot of things to say about this anyway. So.
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I couldn't manage to be with you today physically, but finally I'm there anyway, digitally. And I would like to say a few words. Actually, my speech will be a bit philosophical, abstract, and I will try to touch a couple of very important for me subjects, certain ideas I have, and I will try to prove my point. But there are many other things which I have told in this book, so I will try not to touch those subjects. So this will be a hopefully rather short speech, but about something else which is, I believe, very important, at least for me. First of all, I would like to thank everyone, Celine as well, who was the motor of this project. And for me, it's really an honor to work together with such a great modern artist like Conrad Shawcross. I've seen his works, and yeah, I'm very impressed. And the thematic is definitely something I was thinking about a lot. Because, you know, I was born actually in the artistic family. My father was a painter and a sculptor. My mother is a pianist. So somehow from the very early childhood, I was taught to appreciate arts and actually those unmaterial ways, so to say, of self-expression. My point would be, actually my main point would be, I will try to convince you, even if probably you who are there now are the least people who has to be convinced about it, but still I believe it's a very important point of nowadays, is that actually the arts in a broader sense, because chess is also an art. I mean, actually, there is a certain consensus that chess is, what is chess? Chess is art, science, and sports. Yeah, so all three in one. So it's also definitely an art. And I believe that the importance of artists in general, yeah, of people who are creating something unmaterial, some unmaterial things, is, I mean, is not appreciated enough nowadays, because I believe those people are the people. We are also talking about science, of course, and so on, the people who are moving the civilization mostly. And, well, unfortunately, with all respect to the other professions, such as politics, politicians, I feel kind of uneasy that people who are creating actually arts, music, scientists, you know, they're not enough promoted, but time will put everything in its place, because yeah, I'm trying to prove my point now. Just a few questions for all of you. Do you know Emperatrice Maria Theresia? When she was ruling, what was this time? How many of you know this? I suppose some definitely have a certain idea about when she was ruling, but I will name you two other people of the same time, of the same place. Bach, Mozart. So who is more important for the civilization? Bach or Mozart? Bach, Mozart, or Imperatrice Maria Theresa, with all respect, yeah? Then another question is Johann de Witt. How many of you know Johann de Witt? Actually, it was a ruler of Holland of the time of Rembrandt. Not other way around. It's not Rembrandt who was a painter of the time of Johann de Witt, as you all understand. Yeah, so actually, when you look at even Lorenzo Medici, yeah, Lorenzo Medici is already very well known. Well, let's put it this way, politician in the modern time, but basically mostly because he founded the school and was really given a lot of money and attention to the artists such as Michelangelo, Botticelli, and to name just two of them. Yes, so what I want to say is that in fact actually this part of our being is extremely important. Of course, we need to eat, we need to live, etc., but we all understand that this is not enough. Yeah, I mean, there are very few people who would be feeling well and perfectly happy just biologically, let's say, fulfilling their instincts and needs. So we actually need more than that. And in the history of humanity, we are well, of course, there are also political leaders who are very important and very big figures in the history. Not all of them for good reasons. let's be frank. But in general, we all, for me, and it was always the case, even from the childhood, there was, I mean, Bach, Mozart are the people, for example, just to name, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci, yeah? They were the people who made an impact on our civilization, I mean, 10 times more than any other people of their time, yeah? Because what is very important that such artists, such people, the effect of their genius is prolonged for centuries. If you think how many generations were enjoying the works of Bach or Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, how many people, if you multiply all generations, how many billions of people actually this one single artist have influenced and keep on influencing and probably will keep for centuries to go. And that's why, I mean, I have very personally deep appreciation of such people. And I would actually really like to do something to make, great scientists of nowadays, great artists, great musicians, great painters, sculptors, to make them the major figures of the civilization nowadays, because they are, because I believe they are, they really are. And this will be very clear in maybe 200 years from now. And to finish with it, I would like to say that maybe in 100 years or 200 years from now, there will be a conversation somewhere in London, in a school, in a British school. The teacher would be of history will tell, well, there was such a political figure, Boris Johnson or Theresa May. They were actually, you don't know them, doesn't matter. They were living in the time of Conrad Shawcross. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because I can assure you that was the case. I mean, during Lorenzo Medici time, I mean, who was Medici and who was Michelangelo and Botticelli. Now it changed. Yes, so what I would like with my speech, what I would like to tell is really to take a distance from nowadays world, from media, to take a distance and to really appreciate what is to be appreciated. Is art, is creation, is a mastery of an artist. I personally, frankly, if it even will be shocking for many people nowadays, for me, any great musician is a much bigger figure than president of any country, for me personally. And that's why I would like to encourage all of you and everybody to have this way of thinking, because I'm pretty sure that our world will be a better place if such people will have more appreciation, more interest will be, and there will be more about those people, about their way of thinking and their creations. So that was my general speech. I think now Conrad will get to the point and tell you something more meaningful than that, but I just wanted to raise this important, for me, very important point, and everything else you can read the book. I'm talking there about many other issues as well, but for now I will give word to the main person of this project. Conrad, please.
I don't know if someone has a question or two. No? To Vladimir? No?
Have I got the mic? Is my microphone on? Well, firstly, thank you so much, Vladimir. That was very, very kind of you to introduce me that way, and also I'm equally honoured to be taking part in this project with you, and it was fascinating to hear you talk. I've been thinking about chess again. I played a lot of chess when I was a boy, so I've been thinking a lot about chess, and for me, one of the clear sort of things also in terms of general relativity and things, it's the relationship between things, and there is no this, and that all the pieces define themselves. There is no such thing as something in isolation, and so these pieces define themselves against each other, and it's all about these relations. And so and similarly in space, there is no such, the more you go into the idea of now, the more elusive it is, and the only thing that exists is the relationship between things and the movement of things, and nowhere in space is there a sense of now. And the sun is 7 seconds away, light year, 7 seconds for a photon to reach the sun. Galaxies are light years away. There is no now, and a sort of chess game is very much a sort of encapsulation of a universe on a board. But in isolation, the things don't exist in isolation. It's only through the relationship to other things that they exist. So I was going to talk a little bit about shadows. I've got quite a few things to show you, but they go back a while in terms of works that I started off making works like this one. This one is a piece called Loop System Quintet. It's a very loud piece, and it uses common denominators of a 9 to 8, a 5 to 4, a 3 to 2, musical gearing chords, and they would all while it looks like it's quite erratic, they come back in line just then. They sort of sweep around, they make these toroidal knots, but they would make all these shadows in the room and all these sort of very fast moving shadows, which for me was quite theatrical, but it was just a sort of byproduct at the time. I didn't really think of them as the sort of finished work. So this should be another one here. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, so this is a piece. This one is called Slow Arc Inside a Cube, and I was doing a residency at the Science Museum, and I came across, this was back in 2008, and I came across a quotation from Dorothy Hodgkin, who was an amazing scientist who discovered crystal radiography. She pioneered a process called crystal radiography, through which she discovered the structure of insulin, so this very complex amino acid, and she likened this process as like trying to work out the structure of a tree by only seeing its shadow. So it was a very beautiful kind of Plato's cave analogy, and very accessible for everyone, because if we've all sat underneath of a tree with a glass of wine and looked up at the leaves and the complexity of the leaves and the dappled light traveling through them, and wondered and sort of gazed up at that structure. But if you could only see the shadow of those leaves on the ground, would you ever be able to work out the structure of that tree? And through ingenious techniques, scientists are sort of beginning to peel back that structures of things. But the reality is that you'll never ever be able to see the full structure of the bark and the leaves and the twigs and the ants and the mitochondria, and so you get the vague shadow of the structure. So I've been building these cages, and this was the first time, so I started warping the cage, putting a rhombic pattern on the surface. So I've been developing these over the years, and they've been kind of, what I love about them is that there's this sort of flux. It turns the room into flux. So the thing that was stable, the room, which becomes very, very kind of distorted and sort of it creates this sort of sense of instability, and the cage remains static, and it throws everything else into this movement. So then there's another one. This is called Dark Heart, which is the first outdoor work I made in a lake, and there are two lights that sort of slowly expand out, and then they're spinning very fast, and they stretch out and just touch the water, and then tuck back in and basically move towards the center. So it's got this kind of romance. They kiss for a second and then hurtle back out. So there's this expansion and contraction, and they sort of in this endless kind of tryst, if you like. And then this was in the Roundhouse in Camden. It's there's 24 columns in this Victorian shed. It's a circular shed, and I was asked to respond to the work. So I turned the piece back into a clock. It sort of became a 24-hour clock where there's a gnomon, a shadow maker in the floor, and then the seconds, minutes, and hours all have articulated arms. So they expand and contract, and so the seconds all kind of, it turns it this ubiquitous object that we all sort of take for granted has become this universal way of indexing time. It turns it back into a strange celestial experience that it once was for all of us. And at some point when we were all primeval farmers, we could only tell the time from the position of the sun and the shadows it would make at different seasons. And that would be our only way of dead reckoning through the seasons. So it's sort of trying to sort of recreate this, turn this very familiar object into something very unfamiliar again, and sort of slightly tyrannical. So it's sort of one person who came to see it said it was about the tyranny of time, which I really liked. And that's a photo of Dark Heart. So they exist in these dichotomies, where they exist as a particle, which is the movement, and then as a pathway, which is the spline, the pathway through which it travels. And then this is a piece called The Blind Aesthetic. And so as the viewer, you're able to walk around this vitrine, but there are two sides. There's a sort of bicameral chamber, And there is this other sort of space which is vacant, but there's a sense that there is a scientist or an artist inhabiting this space. But while the viewer can see everything, you're in a sort of God's eye view. You can see the machine that's creating the shadows. The kind of implication is that the scientist, the human, is only able to see the shadows on the walls and unable to see the real object. And so there's this sort of, but the viewer is able to circumnavigate everything and to see the Platonic and the shadows that emanate from the Platonic object. And again, it's called the blind aesthetic because of this idea of, and on the wall are these drawings that the scientist or the artist has made of what they think is on the other side of this wall, but they will never see what's on the other side of that wall. They'll only guess at what is there. And I guess that again is about all of our attempts as artists or as scientists to sort of imagine what a black hole is, or to imagine these things will never. It's almost inappropriate to even try and see it because they're so vast and so incomprehensible. And yet we're trying to see these invisible things that will never be seen. But through ingenuity and through imagination, we are trying to see beyond our perception envelopes into these unknown, invisible worlds. And so that's sort of what that work is sort of trying to sort of convey. This one is called The Limit of Everything, which again is like a, again like the one in the lake. It's a piece that opens and closes very slowly, and for every 5 rotations it moves in and out 4 times. So it's a 5-to-4 ratio, and this bronze here again, it creates a shadow across it as it rotates. It creates this triple shadow. Is a 5-to-4 ratio of a chord falling. So it was kind of 2 manifestations of the same thing. They're both manifestations of a chord falling into silence, or just the way we experience a musical chord. So just different ways of transmogrifying that into different things. This was a piece I did at the Royal Opera House. It's a robot that we created to kind of be able to control a light wherever we wanted. So I can create any kind of spline or any kind of movement. All the machines before this had been very fixed pathways. Very important that the movement was very sinusoidal, but this one was allowing me to basically have complete freedom with an envelope. So this is part of this. Again, the shadows are really important, and the sort of meaning behind the shadows are so interesting. A lot of the work is about interpreting movement, and that, again, I'm convinced that movement and geometry have meaning, but I find it very elusive, and I think everyone sees different things within them, and that's what's exciting about art, is the sort of proliferation of interpretations that everyone through their education, their gender, their culture, their sexuality, their love, their trauma, will see something different in an object, and that's, for me, is what's so exciting about it. I don't want everyone to see the same thing. I love people seeing different things. If everyone sees the same thing in an artwork, it's probably not a very good artwork. So it's that, and that sort of death of the author is really important. This is just this is now faster. So the only thing different between these two is just speeding it up. And so then the pace of something is also, with music and with all these things matter. Like when the rotating discs are rotating faster, it changes the meaning, it changes the impact, it changes what it does to you, it changes how your brain interprets it. This is where the robot is stroking its own leg. This became a project that we did at the Palais de Tokyo in Paris, and we've taken it into a few places. We did a series of musical commissions where we asked a musician to respond to the movement of the machine. So it was like there was a sort of film score. I'm not sure it's going to come through, but yeah, here it's sort of moving. So Holly Herndon in this instant made a very industrial track to kind of respond to the psychology and the motion of the machine. And it was called the Ada Project because it was all about Ada Lovelace's sort of work with Charles Babbage to build this first computer, which failed in the Victorian times. It was a mechanical computer. So we've done four musical compositions where a female composer, akin to Ada, like full of creative potential, is responding to another machine. And so it's a sort of ongoing series of musical commissions. It goes on for quite a long time, but I'm happy to share the links with you. So these are this is my studio in London, but this shows a slow art cage that is where we've got to with these cages. So they've kind of become very, sorry, there's a sculpture in front of it, but there's probably a better one here. So this one, so having gone from a really simple single cage with square mesh and one light, this has 2 lights traveling inside and 3 layers of cage. So it's become much more complex, but the shadows through it and the layering becomes, it's sort of, I've become really, they've begun, all these iterations have sort of kind of, each time I sort of add another layer or double the light, so I'm constantly exploring, like a scientist, I guess, a new variable within the repetition of the experiment. And so these pieces, so I'm really sort of excited. And then so similarly to the box here, the Library of Absence, these cages can be used in this interesting way where we change the skin of the cage, or we change the number of layers on the cage. And so this is taking an aperiodic pattern and having a single light inside the cage and having a circular hole pattern. So you get this very surprising effect. And one of the interesting things is when you remove less than 50% of the material, the light that passes through it appears like stars. But when you remove more than 50% of the material, the structure appears like a shadow. So there's a cognitive shift in the way you perceive the pattern through the amount of material that you remove, which is another really interesting kind of perception thing that goes on with this. And we've started to suspend them now, so they're no longer on legs. And obviously the object itself is really sort of interesting in the way that the skin behaves and emanates light. Sort of got this optic effect, but then the obviously how it emanates and how it releases sort of energy or particles or whatever you want to call it is also sort of interesting. So yeah, these are just photos of the things. It's got these interesting moments of kind of get these clusters of stuff appearing and reappearing, and a particle will appear and then reappear, and so there's all this interesting stuff to do with like dark energy. And I've got a piece in a show there's one in a show in Turin at the moment. This is a double light and double cage. So this is different from the one you just saw because it's got 2 lights inside which are traveling across the space. So there's twice as much light emanating from the object. But I've got a video at the end which you should be able to see it. But here you get this strange effect where half the room is traveling one way and the other half is traveling the other way. So it really, I think it gives this sense of just how there is no such thing as nothing is stable. Space, time, everything is in flux, and it's just, there is no, I mean, if anything, the only thing that's stable is the cage, which everything is sort of traveling through it. So I'm sort of every time, I don't know, each time I make a new iteration, it sort of seems to mean, to me anyway, something completely different. So I'm really so excited about this series at the moment. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, these are just photos. Oh, there's another one. But yeah. But anyone, but yeah, I don't know if you have got any questions for me or Vladimir.
There's a lot of digital in your work, thinking of all the movements and so on. I just wanted to know if you were yourself involved in coding yourself, you're a scientist, or are you familiar with working with the team, I guess, but how much are you involved in this whole process of coding?
I'm very involved. I do have some guys in the studio who work with me. I mean, one of the things that I would define quite distinctly about the work is we use a lot of digital techniques, a lot of computer-aided design, but everything I do is analog when you experience it. Purely analog experiences where you see, and I'm positioned myself probably very stupidly to sort of try and create very strong, complex analog experiences which can't be created digitally. So I'm still sort of holding on to this sort of dream of, but some of it is quite exciting because some people have tried to do these virtual VR stuff and it's just, it's so complex. The number of holes in the complexity of it is so enormous that it can't be done at the moment anyway. So it's interesting. And the eye, also I do believe that the human eye is so much more powerful than anything you can create on a screen still. I mean, I think that the experience, the eye as a tool for dead reckoning, for measurement, for understanding space is still second to none. But in answer to your question, I do some stuff like this, but I have a team of very smart people who I work with as well. Yeah.
Actually, I can just add one thing, because we seem to be doing something quite similar by complexity, at least with Conrad, because now I'm working together with DeepMind, artificial intelligence, very big company, one of the major companies nowadays. It's based in Britain. Actually, we are trying to understand how does the artificial intelligence learn, actually, the process of learning and the process of decision making. I mean, extremely ambitious project. We are doing it on the sample of a very famous AlphaZero chess program, which is extremely successful. So we are trying to understand how does it learn. It's also extremely complicated, very difficult, very ambitious project, but at the same time very interesting, and something in the lines of what Conrad was saying also. Yeah, this incredible complexity, this and trying to make sense out of it. Yeah, so to say. So I'm also very excited, actually, trying to help a bit with my chess knowledge and feeling, understanding, is to finally get certain idea how does it learn, because as you probably know that actually this artificial intelligence chess program, it learns from scratch, from zero. That's why it's called, by the way, AlphaZero, because zero knowledge, only the rules of the game, nothing else. And in 12 hours, it plays, I don't know how strong, definitely stronger than any human, any machine existing. Difficult to understand how strong, I mean, because there is no opponent who can actually resist. Yeah, so maybe only God, but it haven't played God yet. So we don't know how strong is it, but it is also something quite fascinating that in 12 hours it learns. Just by playing with itself, learning, and reaching the level which was never yet reached in the history of the game. Trying to understand what does it learn, how does it learn, and maybe trying then to implement it into a human learning process. That's maybe over-ambitious, but extremely interesting project as well.
How many games does it play simultaneously, and how long does a game take for it to complete? If it's just playing itself, is it a nanosecond?
Actually, it was really very interesting experience, because when I was at the office the first time, the team they made this experiment just in front of me. There was a very big screen, and they put it. Let's say all the power so it's just a neural network, and it starts. They just start the process. So, and it plays a lot of very quick games. Okay, of course I'm good enough at least to follow, to understand the level. And at the very beginning, let's say first few minutes, it plays like a 3-year-old child. So just no understanding what is this whole game all about. Just absolutely giving up pieces. I mean, no idea. Then we went to take a coffee. We come back after 20 minutes, half an hour. I already see, okay, it starts to play like an amateur player. It's already understood something just by playing with itself, himself, whatever you call it. By the evening, we were making our work, and by the evening I checked these games. Okay, it was already my level, okay, let's say top human level. Next morning I came, space level, you know. I mean, I don't know how strong, but impossible to compete anymore. So yeah, I think it plays altogether millions and millions of games, but the whole idea that it learns by itself, just, I mean, like a human being learning, I mean, that is something. And what is the most amazing in it is actually that the programmers, I mean, the developers of this neural network which is learning, they don't know themselves how does it learn. They just, I mean, that's what we are trying to understand a bit now, because they just make finally the neural network which clearly shows the result. But the road from A to Z, that is very interesting if we manage to understand at least something.
How many in 24 hours, how many games does it play?
I don't know, I mean, I don't remember, but definitely tens of millions.
Okay.
Tens of millions, but still it has zero knowledge. I mean, absolutely no knowledge.
How many games have you played of chess?
Oh, a bit less, I must admit. But I've studied a lot of books, and you know, I mean, many teachers who are telling you what is this game all about. Yeah, without it, I would never manage to reach this level. I mean, but just to understand it from, you know, without any knowledge, any hint, that is really impressive.
But the processing speed is obviously incomparable to a human. But actually, what your implication is that the actual learning curve is not as good as a human. It's just we take in terms of, it's not learning more per game. It's just being able to complete the games quicker.
That is true, but I mean the whole idea that the machine, so to say, can learn by itself, that is already something pretty fascinating. Yeah. And one of the main ideas is to try to understand at least something. I mean, how does it learn? And then the idea that this can be implemented, and not in chess, of course, in other fields. I mean, basically the whole process of learning. What are the patterns? What is the order of learning? Yeah, and so it's much more global, I would say, project than just chess. Yeah, so we are trying. We published already one scientific paper. We are now doing the second stage. It's extremely interesting because it's really something which is fascinating, and if we manage, it can be a big thing. I hope so, at least.
Are you pessimistic or optimistic? What are your?
Well, you see, this is one of the main, actually, question now of artificial intelligence is trying to understand the reasons of the so-called machine giving certain answers. Because we actually quite often we understand that most probably those answers are at least more precise or correct than human answers. But as long as we cannot understand the road from A to Z, actually we cannot implement them. I mean, it's just too risky. So that is, in fact, one of the major and the most difficult nowadays task in the artificial intelligence field is to try to understand what are the reasoning and how does it come to a certain decisions. So I'm quite pessimistic. It's like, you know, it's too ambitious. I mean, probably people would manage to understand it maybe in 50 years, if ever. But as it always happens in science, in other also disciplines, it's a step. Yeah, you need to make a lot of steps, and then after some steps, new people come with new steps, and one day you discover something. So I am pessimistic that we will manage to understand fully, but if we would manage to make 5% of understanding of it, I would be very glad. It's a lot. It would be a lot.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Vladimir.
Thank you.
Merci à tous.
Merci beaucoup, Vladimir. Merci et merci au musée de Monaco pour votre accueil. Björn, Guillaume, vraiment c'est un endroit magnifique et je pense que beaucoup de personnes ici voudront revenir avec grand plaisir. Et Xenia qui a été incroyable.
But thank you, Celine, for putting all this together and having this. It was your
Well, I'm
idea
just
to bring this all together. So thank you.
I'm just the
No, but you.
medium. You're the protagonist with Vladimir, so it's really.
No, well, we're all, we're all working together. It's been great. Thank you.